Yeah, I'm supposed to be round here at about that point. So I'm a couple of positions out with my plate. Can I lift this plate up and reposition it a couple of notches around? Well, that's the target. Can it be achieved? Ooh, I don't know. I need to be about there. I don't know if I can wriggle my blades into position. Let's see if I can get a screw into here. Where is that? There. And see if I can wriggle things about to get everything to fall into place. I think one of these blades is not in its socket in the body. That's the problem. I might be able to pull it back with the tip of a needle, pull that piece back. That's what I'm going to have to try and achieve. Well, I can position that in, but that doesn't really help me get the other piece in its socket. Oh, it's just about come adrift. Get this screw started again. No, it's not happening. Has it happened? Oh, yeah, there you go. That's a minor miracle. Everything's fallen into place. I'll do up the two screws. Now I have, I think I'm right. Well, my one position, I might still be one position out. It may be that I'm supposed to be over here. I'll have to consult my pictures. No, that's correct. So I've got it right. There's our diaphragm. All moving smoothly, not overly loose. Most importantly, no oil or grease on the blades to stick them together. and cause problems. I'm pleased to have that little part of the job out of the way because that was shaping up to be a nuisance. Put that to one side and have a look at this. So the mechanism plate, I'll swab this carefully with naphtha on a cotton bud, but I also want to flush out this retard gear train with naphtha, and I might as well do that first. I'm just going to soak that. This is the pallet lever at this end. I'll hold that back with my finger and work the arm at this end backwards and forwards to work that naphtha through there. Pour in some more. And what I want to do is loosen up any old oil or grease that's congealed in there. And now I'll use the blower to blow that away, because when you use solvent to dissolve oil or grease or something of that nature and then you blow the solvent away, you're blowing away the oil and grease as well. If you just soak it in solvent and then leave it to evaporate, when the solvent evaporates, the oil and grease will still be there. Or worse, it'll be in some place that you wanted it even less. Always blow away the solvent once you've got everything clean. Right, so this mechanism plate now I'll clean. I don't know when this shutter would have last been serviced. It's conceivable that it's never been serviced, but it's much more likely it's been stripped down at some stage between now and 1931 or 32 or whenever it was I said that the camera dated from. Now here, in the retard gear train, there's a hairspring here. Now, if I hold back the pallets, swing the arm in and then release the pallets, that hairspring's wound up out of the way. That means I can run the cotton bud around the outside here without any danger of hitting that hairspring and damaging it. Of course, as soon as you hit the pallet lever, that winds back down again, but that's alright. I've passed it by, I've done what I needed to do. Okay, so the underside. This is the side the blades run against. And I'll just swab that down carefully. Now this was quite clean here. It wasn't all covered in sticky grease or anything of that nature. And I'll just do the inside of the lens tube. And I'll consider that done. Let's check that retard gear train. That's much snappier in its action. That means I've got rid of all any minor contaminants of grease and oil and rubbish. The blade actuating ring is fairly simple on this shutter. There's a bit of black on there, but I don't think that's from graphite grease or anything. I think that's probably just from the aluminium. Well, this should drop in I would think that, let's have a look where everything is. Yeah, I think that drops in there. Of course, that's got to tuck under that lip over there. There's a little mark there, I don't know what that's from. It's probably a spot where, of corrosion where it sat there against that piece of metal for a few decades. Nothing seriously wrong there. So if that goes in there, we've got two retaining screws. Just checking if they're the same height. They're pretty close. If they're not identical, they're close enough to it. I'll just remove any dirt from those. Now this one went here. Getting these in place could be tricky. If I can get it started, I'll just, that looks better, that looks good. I can just run that round with the tip of the toothpick until I get down to its flush. Then I can tighten it with a with tweezers at that point. It's getting that screw started's the hard part. Well, there we go. Everything's cooperating with me. That's deeply suspicious. Let's see if I can tighten that up. Okay, and this one. Okay, we won't tell anyone about that scratch. That's good. Now the lever that operates that on the top of the shutter is this one. That's a bit grimy, so I better clean that. Okay, now normally I would just put a wipe of molybdenum paste through the pivot of that and through that slot where it couples to the pin on the blade actuating ring. I'll put its screw in place. Or stand up, that's better. Check that that moves smoothly, it does, and put its spring back in place. Okay, so that blade actuating ring moves freely now, that's quite good. I'm going to lubricate this with a bit of graphite powder. I've got some here in a container. Now I'm going to lubricate that retard gear train at the same time. So I'll do that first. Normally I just drop some in the retard gear train. Now you hold back the pallets at this end and then repeatedly move the arm to distribute that graphite powder along the wheels. That was all that's required really. In the blade actuating ring I just drop some in. Now we've only got 3 positions for the blades to sit, but I normally drop them in to those positions. And then just work the the blade actuating ring backwards and forwards to distribute that powder. And having done that, I'll go and blow that out to get rid of all any loose powder, because we don't want loose powder floating around inside the shutter. Well, with that all clean and ready to go, I can clean these shutter blades, and I'll do them individually and put them in place. So I'll start with blade number 1. Now with these blades, because they have this rivet on them, this post, you have to be careful not to get bits of cotton fibre tangled round that rivet, which is easy to say and hard to avoid. Now, I'm just cleaning these with Naphtha. I've got no intention of polishing these with Brasso unless I really have to, because these blades with that long tail on them are fairly vulnerable and fragile. You can see a few marks on there. I think that's a fingerprint. I think someone's picked it up at the other end. And there's certainly a bit of staining right here. Well, that's coming off. That's good. And the screw, the pivot screw, I'm cleaning that at the same time. It doesn't have to be sparkling, it just needs to be not be causing any problems of its own. Right, so blade number 1. I'm looking at my markings because I've marked all of these. That's 3, that's 2, this is 1 over here. Blade number 1 goes here. And these are going back on in the blade's closed position. Normally when I'm putting blades in, I'm using the blade's open position because the blades will fall in if you did this. Now that's a shoulder screw. I've got to be careful to get the blade seated around the shoulder, not trapped underneath it. So take your time getting these screws in. That's blade number 1. Blade number 2 goes here. That screw's longer too. Okay, blade number 2 goes here. Yep, that's correct. Now, did I just flip one blade over the other one? I did. Let me get that back where it started off, or we'll be in trouble. Blade number 1 should be below blade number 2. Right, no jiggling about until I get all the blades in place and get them back in the case, I'd say. Otherwise I'll be here forever trying to sort them out. Right, blade number 3. Okay, all those blades are in position. Now I can put the mechanism plate and the case together, if I can figure out which way up it goes. I'm just looking at the spacing of these mounting holes. 2 of them are close together and 1 of them's further away. I think it's there and there, I think. Check where I am. And that's it. Those are the holes lined up. Get 1 screw in and turn it over and check. Yes, that's correct. That's the correct alignment. Do the blades move? Something's catching. What's it catching on? I think it's because this wasn't down all the way in its case. Where was my... That's what I need to take note of. That's the cable release socket there. I'll get my 3 screws in and check the behaviour. It's catching on something. Something is not right. Okay, there's a bit of a mystery there. To check my blades and make sure that I haven't got anything in the wrong way around. Or to make sure I haven't got any screws in the wrong place. I don't want any screws poking through and catching things. These screws should be all identical. They are. So what have I done? One, 2, 3. Those blades all appear to be in the right position. I bet I have got one of these diaphragm blades in the wrong way up. There, that one. So what's happening is, I told you that they were shallow on one side, taller on the other. I've got one in upside down. So all that work putting the diaphragm together, I am now going to have to redo. Curses, foiled again. Oh. I thought I was being so careful too. Well, that's just what can happen. It's only one blade, but one blade is enough. Which one was it? This one here. This blade. It ain't in right. If I could rescue this, I'd be exceptionally surprised. Usually any attempt at doing things like this, it all turns to custard really quick. See, that's already out of its socket. Alright. That is not looking promising. Okay, and that were here.